All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the really curious case of a company called MLGO. Now, this is a stock that's had one of the most, well, insane collapses you'll probably ever see. But what's fascinating is that the story underneath might be pointing somewhere completely different. Okay, let's just start with the big, glaring number that defines this whole thing, a 90% collapse. I mean, it's just catastrophic. That's the kind of wipeout that has every single investor, running for the hills. And to really put that into perspective for you, the share price, and this is after adjusting for things like reverse splits, it absolutely plummeted from a staggering $972 all the way down to just $9. I mean, look at that. That kind of chart just screams total failure, right? So, on the surface, this looks like an open and shut case, doesn't it? A company just circling the drain. But, and this is where it gets interesting, what if the market is just wrong? As we're about to see, the data hiding just beneath the surface, it tells a totally different and honestly a much more fascinating story. And that really brings us to the heart of the matter, this central paradox with MLGO. How on earth can a company with a stock chart that looks like an absolute disaster zone actually be profitable? That's the real question we need to unpack here. So here's the disconnect, right? It's huge. On one hand, you've got the stock story. The market sees a 90% price collapse, something that looks like just another failed meme stock. But then, on the other hand, you have the company story, the actual financial reality. And that story is about a business that just posted its first ever annual profit, and with growing margins too. Okay, so to even begin to understand if there's a real opportunity here, we first have to figure out why the stock imploded in the first place. I mean, why did investors lose faith so completely? What happened? Well, it turns out this collapse was definitely not random. It was more like a perfect storm of factors that just completely shattered investor confidence. You had heavy share dilution flooding the market, extreme volatility that made it basically untouchable for a lot of people, and just this widespread disbelief that the company had a future. And, being associated with those speculative meme stocks, that just sealed the deal, creating this powerful downward spiral. Okay, but this is where the story takes a really compelling turn. Because while the market was absolutely punishing the stock, behind the scenes, MLGO's management team was busy engineering a massive operational shift. Let's actually look at the numbers because they tell the story. Just a year ago, in 2024, the company was deep in the red. We're talking a loss of 266 million RMB. You can see why the market was so pessimistic, right? This was the financial picture back then. But then, look at this, a total transformation. In 2025, they completely flipped the script. They reversed that whole trajectory, shocking all the skeptics, and posted their first ever annual profit, 53.4 million RMB. I mean, that's a complete turnaround on the bottom line. And what's so important to understand is that this wasn't just some lucky break. It wasn't a one-time accounting trick. The source material makes a great point. In the first half of 2025, revenue actually went down, but profits went up. Now that is not a fluke. That is pure operational discipline. So how in the world did they pull this off? Well, simply put, they got lean, really lean. Management went in and aggressively cut costs. They streamlined the entire business, and they shifted their focus away from low-margin stuff to their core, high-margin algorithm services. They even put their cash reserves to work to generate interest. It was just a masterclass in efficiency. Okay, so the financial turnaround is real, it's impressive, but it's also in the past. What really matters for investors now are the catalysts looking forward, and it looks like there are several that are just starting to line up, which could completely change the narrative for this stock. The source material points to three really key developments here. First up, they were recently added to a major S&P index. That's a big deal for getting on the radar of institutional investors. Second, they're not standing still. They're developing new tech in really advanced fields like quantum encryption. And third, and this could be huge, there are these powerful policy tailwinds from China's big push for AI self-reliance. And you know what? We're already seeing the market start to wake up to that third point. For example, when China banned certain AI chips from NVIDIA, guess what happened? Traders immediately started speculating that domestic companies, like MLGO, would benefit. The stock jumped. This wasn't just a random pop. It was a direct reaction to a major geopolitical tech shift. So all of this brings us to the big question, right? You've got this catastrophic stock chart on one side, but on the other, you have this quiet, impressive turnaround with some real catalysts on the horizon. So, how should we be looking at MicroAlgo today? Is this a genuine value play, or is it just a volatility trap? Well, if you look at the market data, it's still kind of telling that old story. The stock is defined by absolutely extreme volatility. It even has a negative beta, which is weird. It means it often zigs when the rest of the market sags. But there is a really key technical level that everyone's watching, that $12 resistance point. A solid breakout above that level, according to the source, could signal a major shift in how investors see this company. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that the whole investment case has fundamentally shifted. The old story, the old narrative was just a simple bet. Will this company even survive? Yes or no? But the new narrative, the one that's actually based on the financials, is a very different story about a misunderstood, super efficient company with real potential catalysts for growth. So for any investor who's willing to look past that absolutely terrifying chart and actually dig into the numbers, the source material really suggests that the true story of MicroAlgo might just be getting started. Now look, it is absolutely a high-risk speculative play, but it leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. Are we actually looking at the very early stages of what could be a remarkable comeback story?